when you hold the door open for someone, you don't get told to go fuck yourself. And if I would have never met him, I don't know if I'd be here today. There was about 200 to 300 people there. The reality hit me when I'm 6'3". Out of 300 people from shortest to tallest, I was fifth in line. Basketball is not even my first sport. You got guys that were top-level scorers, NCAA, guys that played 7, 8, 9 years overseas, all around the country, guys that had played in the NBA before, and then there's me. There's a 90% chance that I die tonight.
What's up, guys? Lift and Love. Lift and Love here. Where did you pull this question from? Why is that? Lift Love. Crochet. We out. What's up, guys, and welcome to the Lifting Love podcast. You are awesome. And today's podcast is brought to you by Lake Hickory Pub and Marina, where lake and life meet. This episode today is very special because it's a real life friend of mine, someone who I've known for, we were just talking, I believe it's 12 years, which is crazy to me how fast time goes. But a friend of mine, someone I get lucky enough to get to call a brother. He's a professional basketball player, the coach and founder of Most Hated, the best and most up and coming AAU program in the entire country. Make sure you go check him out. A husband, a father, and again, someone I get to call a friend. It is Ty Berdoff. How you doing, Ty?
Good. I appreciate you having me today, Lane.
Dude, I appreciate you coming on. This has been, like we joked before, 12 years in the making. Who are you, for people who might not know you, and what do you do?
So, my name is Ty Berdoff. Originally, I'm from Long Island, New York. I've resided in Kings Mountain, North Carolina for the last 5 years. I moved here pre-COVID. I was here for 2 months, and everything got shut down. Everything was super different, complete shock for life, like being on an island and in one of the biggest cities in the entire world and then moving somewhere where there's like nothing. It was a culture shock. Other than that, man, it's really good down here. Yeah, I miss New York, but the lifestyle down here, you can't compare it.
So I love that you just kind of jumped right into one of my first questions I was going to ask you is what do you think has been the biggest difference? Because for me, you've been down here 5 years, going on 6 years now. I've been down here 2.5, and the people.
It's completely different. When you hold the door open for someone, you don't get told to go fuck yourself.
Dude, why is that such the biggest difference? I tell everybody all the time.
People aren't as rude. Like, they have a common courtesy for the person standing next to them, and it's not just about themselves.
Yeah. So, do you think, because we'll get to your story here in a second, do you think you would have been able to do half of the things that you wanted to do in New York?
No.
Why is that?
For what I do now, so a little backstory. My wife's a business owner. I was a business owner. And for what I had to sacrifice to play basketball would not have been feasible, economically in New York.
Yeah.
We live in a house here that is not even half the cost of a studio apartment in New York. So think about that,
That's crazy.
I mean, you've been to my house right now. Unfortunately, yes, we are still renting, but I live on 100 acres in the country, and we pay $1,300 a month. Meanwhile, I know people that live in a 500 square foot, half a bedroom apartment on Long Island that pay almost $3,000 a month.
So just that ability to not have to worry or struggle as much financially, you think that was one of the biggest reasons moving down here, that you were able to accomplish 95 to 100% of the things you did?
It's that, and the fact that the area that I am in specifically is big with basketball. So when I moved here, we actually both worked at the same gym in Lab City in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we were coaching there, and then I ended up moving further away towards Kings Mountain where I'm at now. Yeah. And I had a very good support system. I had a bunch of college guys that really supported what I was doing. A guy named Denzel Hash that kept me in the gym every single day. They showed me a lot more support and love than people that I knew my entire life did. I have very few people that believe in what I was doing and still do. One of the biggest reasons, and I'm going to be honest, one of the biggest reasons I really started playing basketball was because of my friend Peter Drink.
Shout out Peter. So now I want to dive right into that. It was a great segue. How did you get into basketball? Because, I mean, basketball has been like your entire life, even up from when I've met you.
So we're going to get a little deep here. So the reason I really started playing basketball is because when I was going through a lot of things as a young youth, I was about 12 years old. I was in and out of group homes. I wasn't able to stay at home because I had so much going on within myself. My mother's been sick my entire life, so she couldn't really work, feel the way that she was feeling, take care of me with all the issues I had going on. So the easiest option was an outhouse until weekends came and I'd go home. The last group home I was at was in South Setauket in New York, and a guy named Mike Wolf was someone that he really instilled in me that I could turn my entire life around just playing sports. And if I would have never met him, I don't know if I'd be here today, to be honest with you.
How old were you at that time?
I was 12 years old in a 17 age group youth home.
And then so that's when sports became like, I mean, everything.
100%. I started to realize I was bigger than the kids my age. I was faster than the kids my age, and I had the natural ability to do so. So I took advantage of it.
When do you think, I mean, and it could have been right away, but when do you think that desire to be a professional athlete, like obviously like when you're a kid, like everybody has that dream. I'm going to be a wrestler. I'm going to be this. I'm going to be that. Whatever that dream is.
Well, it's crazy because basketball is not even my first sport.
That is true. You are a phenomenal baseball player.
I'd like to think so. I used to be at least. But I'd say the passion probably came right after high school. Again, me and Peter Trink, we had went to a G League open tryout for the Brooklyn Nets the first year when it was the D League. It was the first year that they had their program. We actually had a tryout at LIU Post.
Wow.
And there was about 200 to 300 people there. And the reality hit me when I'm 6'3". Out of 300 people from shortest to tallest, I was fifth in line.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So that was kind of like a quick, hey, this is your reality now.
Yeah.
I did.
What was that experience like? I mean, because obviously, like, you go from, you were playing organized basketball, but like, that's even at the highest level, that's still like a huge jump from amateur to professional.
The jump was big. The experience was really cool. Like, I still have that jersey that they gave us. The talent level, from what I do remember, again, that was almost 10 years ago. It was good, but I've since then, I'm going to be very honest with you. The talent in North Carolina compared to even other countries that I've played in is almost unmatched. Like, I was just in Malta, which is Europe. It's right under Sicily, right above Africa. And I could have guessed that the high school level here was as good, if not better.
Wow.
Which is, that says enough.
Why do you think that is? Is it just like that out here sports are so heavily like instilled in kids, and whether that's football, baseball, basketball at such a young age?
Yeah, I agree with that very strongly. Like, my son is 8 years old. Last year in the summer, he had won a state championship with his team in third grade. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I just had this conversation with one of my friends. The difference in the way that sports is approached in general down here compared to a lot of other states in the United States and other countries is insane. I have kids that are in third, fourth grade that have a higher IQ level for the game than guys that are in middle school and high school. You have, even my son last year in third grade, they're playing at nationals, and you have 7 and 8 year olds doing press breaks and all.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you don't see that in other places,
So back to your story. So again, I think as a kid, you have like these unreal expectations.
Yeah.
When did you know that it was actually a possibility? Because there's like undoubted confidence when you're younger. Obviously, it's like I could do anything. But like,
Yeah.
at what point is there like a story where like you were like, oh crap, like I can really do this? Or like, were you playing against people who were like pros already that you were like just wiping the floor with? Is there like a story of when it was like, oh snap, like this could be a reality and I just have to kind of work at it and go for it?
Well, I had realized probably about 4 years ago, I'd say 2021. I was down here and I was training with a few D1 and pro guys, and they're like, "Hey, like, you know, there's these private runs. You can't get in unless you're invited. We want you to come." I was like, "All right, cool." You know, you got guys that were top level scorers, NCAA, guys that played 7, 8, 9 years overseas, all around the country, guys that had played in the NBA before, and then there's me. So I was just like, all right, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
I'll pop out. I'll do what I do. And, you know, I went for 2-3 weeks straight. I was killing. I was getting buckets, playing defense. And some of the guys were like, yo, where have you played before? And I was like, nowhere. What do you mean? I'm a father. I'm a business owner at the time. It was just a side hobby for me. And some of those guys were like, yo, like, you should really attempt to make that leap. And I was like, all right, cool. And I really started playing a lot. I was in the gym 3 times a day, eating like crazy, you know, like you understand, you've done the whole fitness thing and all the conditioning, and you've seen me do it.
Yeah.
You've seen me go from 180 pounds to 220, back down to 200, back up to 235. Like,
Yeah.
it's insane. The key that really opened the door for me, though, was, again, I'm going to say his name again, Peter Trink. He was playing in a country called Moldova, which is by the Ukraine and Russia. And he had messaged me and said, hey, like, I seen you still been doing your thing. I want to put you on to something. And I was like, all right, cool. So he had put me on to a guy. I'm not going to get too far into detail with that. And, you know, I went to a couple of showcases in the States and out of the States, and then I went and competed in Mexico for 2 years. Played pretty good, and me and Peter ended up traveling to Brazil together. We played in Mexico together, and then after Peter's not playing currently. He had a few surgeries on his legs, you know. He made a great recovery. He's currently getting back to playing, which is great for him. I love to see it.
I also just saw last night he's bulking. That's gonna be scary because he's like 6'5". That's gonna be
6'6".
It's gonna be
like
scary
240 right now. Yeah, he's a big boy.
Him at that weight is gonna be scary.
Power forward all day long. The Knicks need to hit him up. But so he was someone that really believed into what I could do. You know, I've known Peter a little bit longer than I've known you, probably about 14 years, you know, and he really pushed for me to try to achieve that. And I'm forever grateful for that, because if he wouldn't have helped me get through that door, I probably would have never opened the door. I'd still be working a 9 to 5, doing regular stuff. And, you know, either way, I'd be okay with that. I'm grateful I'm here, but, you know, I was able to achieve things that not even my own family thought was possible.
You're great at this segue thing. Every time I'm ready to talk about another topic, you talk about it. What was that conversation like? I know your relationship with your family is up and down.
It's good now. It's been good for years. Me and my mother are very close. My father has never been in my life. Never even met him. He's gone now. That's on him. I tried to mend that bridge when I was about 16. And he pretty much said he didn't want the responsibility of having a child that's probably just like him. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So let's just talk about your mom, your sister. I know you have a good chunk of your family that you're actually on good terms with. What was that? Did you ever have a conversation with them about like, hey, like, this is what I'm going to do? I know you moved away a couple years ago. I know that was hard already for them. But what was that conversation like where it's like, hey, like, I'm going to do this? Or even with Amanda, like, what was that conversation like? And like, what came out of that?
So with my mother, I don't think she fully understood it at first, you know, because like It's not like, hey, I'm going to the NBA. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't like that. It was
a journey.
There's a lot of people don't understand the intangibles about playing overseas. And there's a lot of sacrifice you need to make. You have to spend money. You know? If you're not on a guaranteed contract, they're not paying for your food. They're not paying for your travel. They're not paying for where you're living. Yeah. So the concern of the situation was, am I able to do it? You know, that was their only concern. They've always supported me. She's watched every game. She shares every game that I play in. For the people that know my mother is very well known. So just having the likes of some of the people that she knows being able to see me as well was crazy as it is. She's got connects literally all over the world.
Yeah.
With my wife has supported me every single step of the way with no hesitation. Like, yeah, she'll ask me, like, is it worth it anymore? Your body hurts all the time. You go away for weeks, months at a time. You go to countries where you can't even communicate with people because of the language barrier, and then you get there, and, you know, I mean, especially the last place I was at, I thought it was going to be a different situation. I got there, beautiful country. It just wasn't it, man. Like, I got there, and before we even had our first practice, I sat for almost a week.
Wow.
I played one game in a month, which is not heard of.
Yeah, I mean, so what did you think this route of becoming a professional basketball player was gonna look like, and what is it now, and what do you feel like? Well, what do you think? What do you know the differences are as far as what you dreamt of and what actually happened?
What I will tell you is, the dream is always sweeter because it's the image of what you want and not what it is. And when people get to a point of maturity, when they can see things for what it is and not what they want it to be, is when you make a very harsh decision on what you're going to do. And for me, was it what I thought it was going to be? Absolutely not. If you ask any professional basketball player that played at a lower level out of the country, they'll tell you straight up, it's almost demoralizing to a point because you don't pick where you live. You don't pick the situation you're going to be in. If you're told you have to stay in a Super 8 for a month, you're sleeping in a motel for a month. If they tell you that these are the food spots that are local, that are safe for you to go to, that's where you're going to go get your food. If they tell you you're not allowed out past 8 p.m. at night, you're not going out past 8 p.m. at night. It's almost like being a teenager again, because now you're in a situation where you don't make your own decisions.
Wow. What was that like for you? Because, I mean, as your friend, I know you're very much someone who likes, you're entrepreneur, you like to be in control. What was that like for you as somebody who is very much an in control person?
It was tough at first. I think it was more or less tough because I had to entrust people I didn't even know. And it was to the point where it was beyond trust. It was also my safety. A little backstory. When I was in Europe, I actually ended up playing in Moldova as well, where I mentioned Peter had played. And I was there for a few weeks, and on my birthday, ironically, February 12th, a few weeks from now, we were sitting in our hotel, and there was a news broadcast that Russia was putting cruise missiles in the airspace that I was in.
Oh, my gosh. So
you could only imagine what would have went through my head. In my household, we don't really watch TV. We don't have cable. We have, a Fire Stick, Netflix, all the apps that they have, whatever. My wife didn't even know what was going on. I didn't even tell her until I touched back on U.S. soil what was going on. I was in the airport the next day. I was out.
So the league didn't end. You left for your own safety.
All of the players left.
Wow.
It was not worth the risk to reward concept. It just wasn't,
So what was going through your head when all that happened? Was it like...
My first thought was, there's a 90% chance that I die tonight.
And again, how far... geographically, I'm awful, but how far away is Ukraine from where you were playing Moldova?
3-hour drive.
So it's relatively close. That's like
Yes.
that's like from here to like Virginia.
We were in the capital of Chisinau, which is Moldova. It is central Moldova. If you were to go about 2.5, 3 hours east of where I was, you're in the Ukraine.
Wow. Did that put any doubt in your mind of like, hey, I obviously maybe a different country, but like, did that stunt your like wanting to be a professional athlete? Or was that kind of like, I didn't fully get to do this thing that I sought out. Let me go find another opportunity.
Well, the situation was very discouraging. We had gotten there. The first few days we were there, we had practices. I think 2 days in, we had a game. And when we had our first game, the people that ran the gym knew that we were American. And in Moldova in the wintertime, it is frigid cold. It's 10 degrees, sometimes even less. It snows all the time. And as soon as we got into the gym, they turned the heat off. And you know me, I'm a shooter. My hands were purple. I couldn't warm up. I couldn't do anything. They played extremely dirty. The courts weren't good. And, I think I ended up staying there for 6 or 7 games. And I came home, and I actually got injured. I thought I was going to have surgery on my patella tendon in my left knee. And I actually sat and didn't play for almost a year. I sat for, I think it was approximately like 9-10 months. And I ended up coaching within that time span for Carolina Wolfpack with JaQuincy Boykins in Shelby, North Carolina. And he actually was one of the people that really helped me gain back love for the game through the youth, which helped me get back into playing.
So you were basically at a point where it was like, I might not do this again, and then just happened to fall into coaching.
Yeah.
But then again, you also always kind of coached at some degree, even when you were still on the hunt to do professional stuff. Like, because we coached the team when one of the first time I came out here, we were coaching a team.
Yeah, we were coaching in Charlotte.
Shout out Dre.
Bad City.
So we were coaching. So like, you kind of already had that experience.
Yeah.
But like, was it going to the other side of the game, not being a player, that genuinely kind of like piqued your heartstrings and were like, hey, like maybe I'm getting called back to play the game that I'm destined to play?
The thing that really stood out to me while coaching was through the small experiences I had already, which, I've been through 10 times the amount since starting. It showed me that the things that I was able to conquer and get through was able to help the kids. Mm-hmm. My playing experience made me a better coach in the sense that I could lead by example. You could ask any of my players. We have practice. I'm laced up on the court. I don't sit there and just yell at them.
I can attest to that. I've been to a couple practices and you lacing them up.
Yeah, I don't just sit there and tell them to run sets, and if they fuck up, they gotta like, all right, cool. I run everything with them. I work out with them. I train with them. I travel with them. I go on college visits with them. I try to do everything that I wish I would have had as a support system as a youth athlete growing up. Right as I had gotten in with Carolina Wolfpack was the same year that me and Amanda had gotten married. I went through a lot that year. I lost 2 of my best friends within a few months of each other. We had gotten married. And I still wasn't playing. My knee was still messed up. And then probably about like 4 months after, I went back to Mexico to play. And I did good. I don't think I did as well as I would have liked to, but we ended up winning a championship in their league that we were in. And then I came home, and I just prepared for what was next. And now we're in current time where 3 months ago I was in the middle of Europe. I had a good chance to play in one of the lower leagues in the Euro League, and I averaged 20 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists with 23 minutes played.
Wow.
So
that's like, those are lines for like people who play a full game.
Yeah, no, and I only played 3/4 of that game. So, one thing I do want to say to any younger guy that may be watching this is, regardless of the situation you're in, the cards that you're dealt, unless you are physically unable to do what you are trying to do, go and fucking do it. Because, you know, I see guys every day between the ages of 18 and 50 that you go on the news and someone's dying, someone's dead, someone's homeless, someone doesn't have food. And people take for granted some of the things that we do have the luxury of. We're all in the situation, for the most part, as Americans, to freely pursue what we want to do for life. There are other countries where they are told what they have to do. There's kids in other countries that are my son's age, 7, 8 years old, that work corners, sell flowers and candy in the middle of snow blizzards. I have picture proof of it, you know? I've seen it with my own eyes. And then I come home and I see people that are like, oh, this food isn't warm enough. That bathroom's not clean. This house isn't big enough. But I've seen people literally living in mud houses, built with sticks and mud and no windows, no electric, no water, and they're as happy as can be. So I've been very grateful and blessed enough to see both spectrums of life. Yeah. I've dealt with both spectrums of life, not knowing where I'm going to live tomorrow, not knowing where my next meal is going to come from. Thankfully, I'm no longer in that situation, but if me and my wife especially had never really tried to grab at our dreams, I don't know where we would be.
There is something I do want to talk about, and I have a couple more topics I want to talk about with you.
Whatever. We got time.
Amanda.
Yes.
Me, as a friend, outside looking in, probably one of the best things that's ever happened to you.
100%. I say that all the time.
How important would you say to people out there who have a dream or whatever that looks like, and how important is it to find the right spouse? Because Amanda has supported you. I mean, I've seen it firsthand through everything.
Yeah.
And it's very easily she could have been like,
fuck that.
Yeah. Like, no.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree with that. What I want to say is it really differs on age, because I tell all my athletes all the time that are in high school preparing for college, and you'll understand this, I'm going to try to say this in the most appropriate way possible, that when you're in high school, whether you're a guy or a female, the opposite sex does not matter. You are going to get distracted by things. You are going to be in the middle of a game thinking, all right, I'm ready to go to my girlfriend's house after this. Like, I did the same thing as a young guy. Like, I get it. But I preach to my younger guys all the time. When you make that next level from high school to college, you'll get what you want.
Yeah.
The things that appear to be appealing to you will come to you.
Yeah.
So people need to just really focus on what's in front of them instead of what's around them, if that makes sense. For me personally, I'm going to answer the question that you originally asked. Finding the right spouse is so fundamental to the breakdown of what you're going to do. Because I'm going to be honest, the person I was with before my wife wanted nothing to do with what I wanted to do for a future. Nothing at all. You know, I worked 3 jobs. I was told it wasn't enough. I was trying to play sports. I was told to give it up. I wanted to do certain things with my life. I was told I was being stupid or selfish or unrealistic. And, you know, I actually met Amanda at one of the lowest points of my life. I was literally living on your couch a few months before that. You know what I mean? So I get it.
Isn't it crazy? Real quick to interject. Isn't it so crazy to look back and see where we're both at now? Like
100%.
I didn't know how far you wanted to go in depth with it, but like, how long were you with us?
Damn.
That's what I'm saying, right? Because to me, it felt like 6 months to a year.
At least 6 months, because I remember it to this day, bro. Starlight Drive, Shelby. Oh my God, Shirley, New York. Shirley, New York, man. You know, I lived there with you, your mom, your pop, Brittany. I literally slept on your living room couch. I had more sneakers in your closet than you did. And you know, I'm forever grateful for that. You know, your parents always did right by me. They treated me like I was another child of theirs, and I never felt like it wasn't a home for me.
Yeah. I swear to this day, I think my mom really does look at you like a son because she always asks about you. Like it's
Shout out TJ.
Mom, if you're watching. I didn't know how far you want to talk about, but it's just so crazy. Like I've never been able to say this because we haven't really talked about it. I'm so fucking proud of you.
I appreciate it.
Like
I could say the same thing for you though, because like you said probably about a minute ago, look where we both started.
Crazy.
We both started as two kids that people looked at as, oh, they got this going on, they got that going on. Where are they really going to make it in life? And now we both can say that we're doing something that we both actually have a passion for and that we both love, and we're excelling in that. That's the difference. Because I'm going to be very honest with you. I know a lot of those people that told me I wasn't going to be somewhere. Some of them aren't even alive anymore because they made wrong decisions. Yeah. And, I'm not throwing shade on that. I never, ever, ever want to make anyone feel like they're not good enough or they're not doing something enough to where it's purposeful.
But then again, to crap on somebody just because they don't do what you approve of them doing.
Nah,
it's kind of crazy.
I'm past that. It's the fact that I show love and support if you love or hate me. That's just what it is. I'm not gonna take my characteristics and match it with somebody else because they're here and I want to be here. I always try to look at everyone, even my players that play for me. A lot of coaches put themselves here and put the players here. Everyone's right here with me. Yeah. Because I know where I came from. I know what I've been through. I can't ever tell someone else you can't do something.
Because you literally, I mean, to put it in a term, you made something out of nothing.
100%.
Like looking back, it's kind of crazy that when we were in high school, you used to say all these things. Hey, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and you've done 90 to 95% of the stuff that you said you were going to do.
Yeah, and I'm still in my 20s, which is crazy.
Which is wild.
And I'm just getting started. We're literally, to most people in the world, we still are looked at as children. And I hate to say it, but when I talk to my younger guys, I try to treat them in a different perspective than I was treated at their age, not telling them that, you're not an adult, you're not grown, because down here it's very different. Half these guys are 16, 17 years old, have a car, they have a license, they're working 2 jobs just to play a sport. So they really push, and back to what we were saying though, it's I in life have realized that you can only worry about what looks back at you in the mirror. You can't sit there and paint someone else's picture if you don't even know the details within the picture. So when people ask me, oh, how do you play pro? How are you doing this? How are you doing that? Well, if you want me to break it down for you, it's not simple. It's not easy. It's waking up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning while you have a child and 4 dogs and a wife while trying to run a business and helping your wife run a business and then still doing it. It's the kids that I've had some of them play for me that are 16, 17 years old that are waking up, taking care of all of their siblings, going to school, Ubering to school at that, working an overnight job, not sleeping, going back to school, showing up to practice, then going home to do their homework, then taking care of their siblings again. And people look at, oh, that kid's got too much going on. That's not their fault. It's not anyone's fault that the people that brought them into the world just decided, I'm not doing this anymore.
But isn't that crazy that there are people out there who even though they've gotten the worst, crappiest hand, they still do anything and everything possible to make 100%. Their dream happen. Yeah. And I feel like you're obviously one of those examples because, especially like you were saying, in your younger life, it wasn't all roses and daisies. You know what I mean? You had a lot of trials and tribulations. And I mean, I was just lucky enough to kind of be there and be a part of it. And I hope in some fashion I was of help or of when we were hanging out, it was a peace of mind where you're you're safe and whatever. But it's just crazy that people who can make excuses don't, but you see the people who really don't have any excuses make the most.
100%. You know, everything that I was just explaining, it wasn't just me just talking. That I was explaining, and I'm not going to say names, but there is a kid that had played for me that me and my wife are still currently very close with, that dealt with everything I just spoke about. And
it's unbelievable.
You know, everyone tried to tell him, like, you know, you're not going to make it. You're not going to do this. You're not going to do that.
Why is that? I'm sorry to cut you off. Why is that the first thing people say? Why not, you got this? Why can't people love?
You want me to be honest with you?
Be honest.
It's because that's what they were told.
It's like a domino effect.
There's always this image in someone's head that just because they couldn't do it, the next person can't do it.
That's crazy.
And it's sad because, you know, I remember when said athlete was announcing where they were going to go to college. And this is a kid that when I first met him had a 0.9 GPA. Couldn't even go to a JUCO school if he wanted to. Nothing.
Oh my gosh.
And now he is flourishing where he is at. His GPA is in the 3s.
That's awesome.
He is averaging quadruple the national average at his position in football. And he is playing a collegiate sport as a collegiate athlete. And that is a kid that didn't have a ride to school every day, didn't always have food on the table, didn't have the parental support that he needed. I remember when I first met the kid, everyone was like, yo, like, try to talk to him. He won't talk to anybody. And me and him clicked. And to this day, he was just with me and my wife last week having dinner with us, staying for his college break, because we have been able to do with the youth what I wish other people would start doing. Stop pushing these kids out. Stop telling them they can't do things. What example are we setting for the next group of guys coming up if we can't even do the correct stuff? And then the older generation gets mad at us. Oh, you know, they're not doing the right thing. They're not doing this. But look at the example we were given. Look at the template we were given. Yeah. We were told you got to work 2 jobs the rest of your life. You got to do this. You got to do that. You can't do this once you have kids. You can't do that once you're older. It's bullshit.
Speaking of the younger generation, last thing on the family side, and then I want to move to most hated.
Yeah.
AJ. Because I feel like along with Amanda, I think AJ was both of them, their combo pack, obviously. They both came with each other. I think he had such an that's when I really saw you mature. From my perspective, that's when you like really came into your own, not only as like that father figure, but as like a man.
Yeah.
What can you talk a little bit about the impact that AJ had on you, and kind of like you didn't have to wait. Like I'm waiting 9 months. Like you kind of were just like thrown into that. What did that relationship and that responsibility do to you as a man?
AJ reminded me of myself as a kid. Situation's a little different. So AJ's biological father had passed away when he was 2 in, you know, horrible car accident, motorcycle accident. When I had met Amanda, you know, she was still grieving. She didn't really have the light that she has now. Yeah. And with AJ, it was easy for me to bond with him because I understood as a young boy what it's like not to have a father. I mean, you know, thankfully I have my grandfather. I do want to talk about that as well. Yeah. But with AJ, I think the bigger impact came from, it's not just me living life anymore. It's me having to show a growing human what it's like to make the right decisions, the wrong decisions, the consequences of certain things. And you have to be a role model to said person because that person's going to be exactly what you are. Yeah. And if you're making the wrong decisions constantly and you're doing the wrong stuff and not doing things that, you could wake up and be like, wow, I'm proud I did that. What do you think that child is going to end up like? It's a product of environment situation.
Without them both, where do you honestly think that you would be?
Do you want like a straight answer?
Like straight, because I mean, she wasn't the reason you moved down here, but she also came down with you.
She was the deciding factor for me. That was to say, okay, I need to change life.
But what? Yeah, but you were already down here, right? You you weren't.
So we
I didn't know that.
So backstory, me and her brother were very close.
Yeah.
So her brother was dating my ex's best friend.
Oh.
And we both had figured out that, things were being done behind closed doors that shouldn't have been done. And I ended up leaving the person I was with, and I moved in with her brother. And lo and behold, Amanda lived there as well with AJ. And then me and Nick are still close to this day. That's literally my brother. We met in an apartment in Selden, New York on Cherry Drive, right by, actually it wasn't too far off from where me and you lived. And it was very different, bro. Like it was an experience where I was looking to change my life, and the situation that I was put in was already changing my life for me before I knew it. If that makes sense, you know what I'm saying?
It was kind of happening without you knowing it, but it was happening in front of you.
Yeah. So we had lived together, and me and Amanda started getting really close, started bonding and stuff. And then, human nature took over, just simplest way to put it. And we had a few friends that had moved down here, and Amanda kind of looks at me and goes, I don't want to live here anymore. And I already had in my head for at least the last year that I wanted to explore what North Carolina was like. And, we came down, we visited some friends, we stayed with them for about a week. And I turned around and told her, I'm going to start looking for jobs here. I said, I don't want to live in New York anymore. And honestly, to this day, I think, besides the factoring of Amanda in the situation, that was probably the best thing I ever could have done. Not just for myself, not just for our family, but I'm in a situation now that I'm able to help younger people that were in a similar situation to mine, where they're either in a single parent household or they're solely dependent on themselves.
Yeah.
And they constantly have the voices in their ear telling them that you can't do this. You just got to go work. You should drop out of school. You shouldn't be playing sports. And for me, I hate that because I constantly heard that. It really wasn't even my parent, like my mother. It was people around me that told me all the time, like, dude, you're wasting your time. Like, I had people that were super close to me that would say to my face, oh, yeah, good luck. And then they turn around and be like, oh, he's not going to do shit. You know what I mean? And now it's like, oh, man, I really didn't believe you could do it, but I did it because I was able to put myself in a better situation to where it wasn't constant negativity. It wasn't people, trying to tell me, you're a kid that grew up in group homes and went to 2 different alternative schools because you couldn't control your temper or whatever the case was. But now I'm here. I'm 26 years old, about to be 27. And to this day, I have people that tell me, there's no way you did that. I don't know how you got there. Well, I got there, and I continuously help other people try to get there. So regardless of what anyone has ever told me, to be honest with you, it's like, I think everyone's entitled to feel how they want to feel, but stop telling people that they can't do something when you don't do anything with your own life. That's just the reality. And you know me, bro. Like, I'm very blunt. I'm straight to the point. I'll be honest, even if it hurts feelings, but I'm never going to saturate myself down and water it down to appease someone else's feelings. It just never has made sense to me. If you don't like what I'm going to say and you're fucking up, don't ask for my opinion. Just don't. Because I'm going to tell you what it is, whether I love or hate you. And I'm going to support you, but I'm going to tell you what you need to hear.
So you mentioned your grandfather.
Yes.
How important was that relationship, and what did that really? Because he was your father figure growing up.
Yeah.
What did that mean to you? Not actually having a father that was involved.
So it was a mixture of things, So my father was, I've told you about this. I don't know if you remember or not.
Yeah.
So my father was actually right out of high school, he was recruited by the New York Mets. Great athlete. He was a big guy, 6'6", 6'7", pure athlete. It's what I've heard. I personally don't know, obviously.
Yeah.
And he's a big reason why I choose not to be a bad person. Because I'm not going to say his name. I'm really not going to give him that courtesy. If you were to look up my father's name, he has more arrest records than he has years lived. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, like, all right, cool. He wasn't around. I think it was better because having the person I did, like my grandfather, that has, over 10 grandchildren. He has 4 daughters, a lifelong wife that he had, and my grandmother. They were married over 60 years. Wow. So he was the epitome of a good example of what you should be as a man. My grandfather, unfortunately, lost his battle with cancer.
Sorry for your loss.
It's all right. We were on 13, 14 borrowed years. He had cancer throughout all of his lymph nodes. He had multiple types of cancer. And he died last year, which was still to this day is rough for me because I think about it every day. I lived with my grandparents from being a newborn until about 8 years old. And then the furthest I ever lived from them, besides moving to North Carolina, was 10, 15 minutes. That was my support system. That was not just my grandfather. That was the father figure that I had searched for my entire life and didn't know it was in front of me.
Yeah.
My mother, there was really a demographic of like 3 guys my entire life that she was with. Her ex-husband, he was around a good amount, but like they didn't stay married long. I was good friends with his sons. We all played baseball growing up, whatever. The guy she was with before that was around since I was almost my son's age. He first came around when I was in probably about 2nd grade. And, I'll talk to him every so often, but like he wouldn't even accept an invite to my wedding. You know what I mean? Like just bullshit. Yeah. Small things like that. And the fact that I was blessed enough to have both my grandparents in my mid-20s at my wedding with my entire family was a blessing. And, I try to explain to people all the time, be grateful for what you have, because they're, not saying it for me, but like there's people that are like me that step into a child's life that didn't have to. Yeah. That made that choice because they knew that they could help. And a lot of the younger youth and the kids do not appreciate that. Whether their parents are on drugs or are unfortunately no longer here, they take for granted that, they're not an orphan. They're not in someone else's home. They still have that family. Yeah. And, with my mom being sick my entire life, my grandparents were that support system, not just for me, but for my entire family. My brother, my sister, all my cousins, my aunts, my uncles. To this day, my grandparents' house is that place to go when we are all together.
Is that why you chose to get married there?
Yes, 100%. I chose to get married there because it was the fact that my grandmother isn't super mobile anymore, and I wanted to be able to give my family an entirety of the moment of we can all enjoy this in the comfort and peace of our own home. Shortly after, probably about a year and 2 months after I got married, my grandfather had passed away. I am currently in the process of changing my last name to his last name because my father was adopted by his stepfather, so my last name has no biological correlation to me.
Yeah. How important is that for you as far as like from a legacy standpoint where you get to be able to carry his last name and like just that meaning of it?
It's huge. He didn't have a son. He only had daughters. So unless, which I am going to do, and hopefully I can do it soon, if I never decided to do it, his name would no longer go forward. So for me to be able to, not just for my grandfather, not just for a veteran, because he also was in the service, it's a big honor and a blessing to be able to do that, because not everybody is in a situation where they have the freedom to sit there and say, you know what, I think I want to make this decision to keep his legacy going. I'm in a very unique situation to where I'm able to do that and keep that going. There are certain people that are not as, in that situation as I am, to where they can make that choice.
So the word you use, legacy. Most hated.
Yes.
To jump into most hated. The best word I could use is legacy. I know that you are changing the entire landscape of what youth basketball is going to look like. And to have you at the forefront of it, someone who has been told you can't do it, been told you're not good enough to do it, you're never going to accomplish anything, to then climb to the mountaintop and accomplish your dream of becoming a professional athlete and playing in some of the top leagues all over. I mean, you've been to Mexico, where have you been, real quick?
Mexico, Brazil, Moldova, Malta, and then I've played in the States.
To go from you're never going to make it to the mountaintop of all those places you just mentioned, how good does it feel now? Let's say you never lace up again. Let's just say. Obviously, I believe you're going to keep playing. Let's say you never lace up again. How does it feel knowing that even if you never played another professional game, the impact that you've already made in two years of most hated, what that can look like? What does most hated mean to you?
Most hated to me is a reflection. It's a reflection of the fact that my team last year was made up of kids that were told, you're an unsigned senior, we don't want you on our team. You come from a situation where we don't want to deal with the problems that come with you. And I told those kids straight to their face, I was like, I'm not letting you guys go out like that. It's just not how I was built.
And last year, the team was a majority of seniors, correct?
100%. Last year, we had 6 or 7 seniors. Thankfully, four out of those 6 or 7 are currently collegiate athletes.
Large in part to you.
So, well, yes and no, because you can do as much guidance as you want, but those young men were able to take my guidance and take it literally and change their life. For me, I just want to recap on what you started the topic with. How does it feel to be able to travel and go to all those places and do A, B, C, D? It feels great. But the best part of it is it's not for me. The best feeling of it is knowing that through all the struggles I had to go through, not even just as an athlete, not even as a person, it's the fact that I can sit in a situation now and help people that are in those similar situations achieve every single thing that they dreamed of. Just by telling them, hey, like, this is where I've been able to get to, and I can help you get there. My experiences, traveling and playing, the biggest achievement, it's not what I just did when we were in Mexico. It's not playing in the Euro League. It's not playing in one of the highest levels in Brazil. It's none of that. My biggest achievement is saying I was able to help those kids. I was able to take my situation and say, it's bigger than just me.
Yeah.
It's bigger than basketball.
Because you're not, like, you could win all these games and all these championships, but at the end of the day, if none of those kids go to college,
it's meaningless.
Exactly.
There's no, the gratification you get from winning is nothing compared to when I get to turn on a TV and I get to see a kid that I've either trained or has played for me on ESPN, playing on national TV, saying, Coach Ty, I just signed my first professional contract. That, to me, is the biggest indifference in was it worth it or not.
So we talked a little bit about 2024 most hated, where you had a lot of seniors.
Yeah.
And you were able to get 4 out of 6, 4 out of 7.
Yeah.
to be collegiate athletes. What does 2025 look like?
Scary. We have a defensive powerhouse this year.
Yeah.
We got guys that do all different things. We got 3 guards right now. I got one kid from Kings Mountain High School in particular that the coaches don't even play him. And he is probably one of the best shooters on that entire team. The kid does not really make mistakes playing on the ball or off the ball. And because he's an undersized guard who isn't loud, he's not like, pick me. He's just there to play because he loves it.
Yeah.
And I'm just tired of the local coaches not giving these kids a fucking chance. And then they come to me and they're like, oh shit, Coach Ty's actually playing me. I'm suiting up today. And then last summer, I'm not really going to get into names, but, there was coaches that literally were telling these kids, I don't need you on my team. You're not going to play if you play for me. Most Hated was a program that was built off of 2 athletes, and I'm going to say their names. It was Santana London and Sincere Lanier. That, I was told time in and time again, why are you coaching him? Why are you wasting your time with him? Meaning Sincere. And I saw a lot of myself in him. I saw the kid that, because he had certain issues and the family situation wasn't the greatest, that people automatically looked at him like, no, like, whatever. He ain't going nowhere. And now he's in college. He's working. He's doing the most that he can to be a better role model to his younger siblings and to the people within his household. Santana London is probably one of the best undersized guards that I have seen in this area. And coaches would tell me, man, he'll be lucky if he goes JUCO. Man, we don't want him on the team, this, and that. And he's actually joining my coaching staff this year. He is coming back. He's a Most Hated alum. He's also a Carolina Wolfpack alumni. And I am super grateful that I met that one group, especially those 2, because they really ignited that for me again, to where it was like, they're not getting a fair shot, regardless of talent, regardless of where they're from, regardless of the home situation. People just weren't willing to put their neck out for them. Most Hated was literally built overnight. And now we're one of the best programs, if not in our county, in the state. So it's like, people can constantly sit there, and they've told me straight to my face, why, you did one season of Most Hated. Why don't you just come over here and help us? Nah.
Because you're building something. It's not one season at a time thing. It is like, this is what I'm going to do for the next however many years. Like I said before, regardless if you ever lace up again, I think you will always consistently do Most Hated.
Well, it's not even just that, bro, because like right now, I actually start playing in a month from now. I'm playing in the semi-pro Premier League throughout the eastern part of the country. It's called the ECBL. It's ran by Chris Thomas. I'm playing for the Hickory Hoyas this year. Ironically, we're in Hickory. But I'm always going to play, whether it's for leisure or whatever. But I will say this, and I hope this doesn't hurt anyone's feelings, but the main reason why Most Hated is still a thing is because of people constantly saying, AAU doesn't do anything for the youth. AAU doesn't help these kids. That's pretty funny, because every single senior I had last year had no offers, and they went to college through AAU. The kids that I have this year, I'm going to say another name, Jemion Husky. He plays for Kings Mountain High School in North Carolina. You go check him out. It's all over YouTube. The kid is averaging a double-double with fucking 15 rebounds a game. And people are saying, how doesn't this kid have offers? How doesn't this kid have interest? It's because a lot of the schools in our area make it so extremely hard for the kids to even access their film. And I think that with what I try to do for the kids and what I've done for the kids, him particularly, I've brought to 2 different colleges on visits, and all of the coaches have loved him. I can guarantee you right now, Jamion Husky will be a NCAA collegiate athlete by the time this summer is over. But that's for the rest of my guys as well. It's guys that went to schools where the coaches pick and choose who they want to, endorse and have those schools come and, this guy's great, this guy's good, and they overlook every other player on that team.
And they just get hyper-focused on one guy.
Exactly. That's what my team is made up of, and that's why we're called Most Hated, because we have always received hate for literally no reason, and now we're going to give you a reason to hate us when we bust your ass on the court. That's what it's about. We started a season off of literally the backs of me and my wife, and we went like 18-5 last year. We were invited to multiple colleges to privately try out with head coaches at Jordan-sponsored colleges, Nike-sponsored colleges, Under Armour-sponsored, New Balance. And I'm just real quick, shout out to Carolina Wolfpack because they're playing in the Puma circuit this year, Pro 16, when all those people told the guy, JaQuincy Boykins, that runs it, that he couldn't do it, that they weren't going to go anywhere. And guess what? He has fucking 4 national titles. And people told him that he couldn't do it. And I hope I have half of what he has achieved so far in the time that he has. Because a lot of people in our area will pick and choose who to help, who to support. Like me right now, I try to do my best for all the local kids, and I have to sit there and fight tooth and nail to even get fucking gym time at a high school. Meanwhile, the local YMCAs, the places that people shit on for no reason, Ty, come and use our facilities. We love the fact that you're helping the kids. But I can't get support from the people that matter. So it's like...
what do you do in a situation like that where it's like you have this community and all these kids that are in the community, you're also in the community. Obviously, you live in the community.
Yeah.
It's like, how can you help the kids in the community when the community doesn't want to help you?
The best way I can explain this, so that way everybody, regardless of age, understands this, that door might be locked. But if you keep knocking and knocking and knocking and knocking until it's undeniable that they answer the door, you'll get to where you got to be. And if you don't keep knocking, you're not just doing yourself a disservice, you're doing the people around you a disservice. And you prove the people right that say that that's not possible.
So last 2 things I got for you. And I want to do one towards us, like a student athlete.
Yeah.
Maybe even someone who wants to go professional.
Yes.
And then I also want to do one towards just anyone in life in general.
Cool.
So how we end the podcast is we end it motivational. It's called Lifting Love Podcast. Try to be positive, give some motivation. What's the best, from a coach's perspective, what's the best piece of advice that you can give to a student athlete watching this right now? Maybe they're in a rut. Maybe they have these dreams of, like you did, to want to be a professional athlete, and they feel like they're stuck in their circumstances. Yeah. What's the best piece of advice that you can give to a student athlete watching this right now?
My best advice that I could give, and, this is one of the first things, and I tell my kids all the time, when I'm recruiting, when I'm trying to look for new players, my first question to them is, what is your GPA? What's your GPA? Because if you're not, I'll break it down, okay, for the guys that don't know. To get into a D3, you need a 2.1. To get into a D2, you need at least a 2.5, and to get into a D3, you need at least, I think it's a 2.9 and up. If you don't have the grade requirement, you're just a student. You're not going to be an athlete. That's just the reality of it. These college coaches cannot take you on a roster if your grades are not up to par. The biggest thing that I could tell a young athlete, and I wish I heard this at their age as well, was, all right, I'm going to use rankings as just an example to ease this up. You could be a 4-star recruit, but if you're not also a 4 or a 5-star student, you're doing yourself a disservice. Because you gotta be able to, and I just saw something recently, I think it might have been it was either Memphis or something. It was one of the big colleges around us that said, one of the biggest things I look at, how can I trust you to show up to practice when you have 3 tardies this semester? How can I trust you to make the right decisions on the court when you can't make the right decisions in the classroom? How can I trust you to show up early to your workout when you can't even get to class on time? How can I trust you to take on your task of guarding the best player on a team when you can't even get your homework done? You know what I'm saying? So, my best advice to any student athlete that may be watching this is, as hard as you may go in practice, you need to go that hard in the classroom. You know, if you see other students struggling, you should be that person that's willing to be a role model, to step up and say, hey, I have about 30 minutes to an hour free after class. Let me help you with your schoolwork. You know, on the weekends, you don't have games, go out and do something charitable. Go help somebody. Go donate time of yours to go help other people that need it. Shit, look at Western North Carolina. Everyone's crying about California. I really hope that everyone in California is well and safe and they rebuild and everything. There are people literally living in the mountains in the middle of blizzards every week that are living in tents. Children dying, animals dying. But, you know.
And then what's that? Now turn it to just anyone in life in general, just life advice. To anyone watching this, what's the best piece of life advice that you can? Because you're someone who has literally, I don't want to say done it all, but you've done quite a lot of things. What is the best piece of advice you give to someone watching this right now?
The best piece of advice, just life advice that I could give. I actually said it before, in a sense. You need to be able to wake up every day, and regardless of what someone says, when you look in the mirror, you need to love yourself. And for a lot of people, you know, I've struggled with it. My wife has struggled with it. Me and you have had this conversation a million times. Regardless of the cards that you're dealt or the situation that you may be in, you have to live life. You can't cut yourself short just based off of the opinion of someone else that's next to you that has no idea what it's like to be in your shoes.
Yeah.
You have to achieve what you set out to achieve and kill it at 150%. Because I could wake up tomorrow and my entire life could be gone. That's what happened to my brother.
Yeah.
My brother was literally coming home at night from work and he got sideswiped on his motorcycle, got ejected 300 feet off the bike, and died right in his fiance's arms. Did he plan that day? No, absolutely not. What he was trying to do was turn around his life, and he didn't get the opportunity to do so. And I'm not going to say he didn't capitalize on the time that he had, but stop making excuses. Wake up and do what the fuck you want to do. People have this thought in their head that I'm not going to be able to do this today. Why not? What is holding you back? Nothing besides yourself. Mental health is super important. If you can't be good, and this is what you were asking me about when I recruit athletes, what do I think about? I see what they are here. Because if I can trust them here, I can trust them here. If they can't hold themselves together here, they can't hold themselves together there. And I was in the same situation. You've seen me at my worst.
Actually,
I was one of those kids that coaches were like, oh, he's crazy. I don't want to deal with him. And then now I'm the one trying to help those kids get out of situations like that. So my life advice would be, regardless of ethnicity, skin color, religion, you know, the area you live in, be you. Love yourself and treat people the way you want to be treated, because it's a really sorry world out there right now where everyone is so opinionated about the person next to them. And, you know, we're in a time period right now where everything's fucked up because everyone's so concerned about the person that's not them. They want to be somebody that is not them. They want to do something that is not them or realistic. Set realistic goals. Do the things you want to do. Travel. Love life. Lift love.
And then the absolute last thing I got for you, social media, not only for yourself.
It's so toxic.
Social media, shout out for you. Where can people find you? Where can they follow you? And then most hated as well.
So my personal page, I don't give out anything but my Instagram because I'm a very private person. I'm not someone that likes the spotlight and cameras and stuff. My Instagram is TY_Anthony_3. You can also find us at Most Hated NC on Instagram. I mean, you can't miss it. I also want to shout out my wife's company, Painted to Perfection, out of Kings Mountain, North Carolina. She is the top company 2 years in a row running out of our county. She is BBB accredited. She does commercial and residential. So look into that.
We got to get her on the pod.
My wife. But I also want to give a shout out to you because you give people like me an outlet to express this. I don't, me, I don't talk. I don't talk about what I've been through or where I'm at in life, but this is something that I'm able to help other people through you and through the microphone and through your cameras. A lot of people don't understand that. I've seen some of the other episodes you do with other small companies that I now know of that I never knew of.
Yeah. Because
they came out here on Lifting Love and they spoke about their story. And I think it's great that, Len, again, I've known you 10 to 12 years. I remember you setting up the microphone in your old bedroom in your mom's house and recording songs and you doing literal concerts and sitting in stands like, fuck, man. Like, he's really going to do something with it. And now, you're about to be a father. You're going to be married. And you're really doing good, special things, not just for you, but really trying to help other people. And I'd like to think that in my situation, I'm doing the same thing. But in the reality of we're both doing exactly what I said other people should do, and do what you love, do what you enjoy, do what helps you feel like you and not like somebody else.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate your friendship. Like I said, 10, 12 years. It's so crazy where we've gone.
I got one thing to say, though. Hey, if LaMelo leaves Hornets, give me a fucking 10-day. 45% shooter from the arc. Give me a 10-day, please. I need the money.
League minimum. But that was another Lifting Love podcast. Thank you again to Ty. Thanks again to Lake Hickory Pub and Marina, where lake and life meet. But until next time, subscribe if you haven't on any platform you get this podcast. But most importantly, lift love, crochet. And just like that, we out.